I never went looking for drama when I hung up my uniform after 28 years in the Marine shell. All I craved was a quiet corner of the world where the only orders came from the sunrise, not some drill sergeant barking in my ear. But when I settled on this little 5-acre slice at the fringe of Willow Creek Meadows, a sprawling suburb that popped up like weeds around my old family plot, I figured I'd finally nail that dream until Susan Whitaker, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood association, decided my sheep were public enemy number one. Yeah, sheep not goats this time, but a small flock of woolly buddies I'd raised for milk and yarn, named Buddy, Max, Fluffy, Peanut, Daisy, and Rex, each with their own goofy personalities that made mornings feel like therapy after all those deployments. It started innocently enough, or so I thought me land was grandfathered in from way back in the 60s, long before their cookie-cutter houses marched in with their manicured lawns and matching mailboxes. But sharing that fence line meant they could smell the faint earthy whiff on a windy day, and boy, did that set Susan off. First came the fancy letter slid under my gate, all embossed with the Willow Creek seal, complaining about unsightly rural elements and odor intrusions that might tank their precious property values like my sheep were plotting some real estate sabotage. I chuckled over my coffee, figuring it was just one cranky soul venting, but then she showed up in person one crisp Saturday, clipboard in hand, pearls gleaming like armor, peering over her designer shades at my barn as if it hid state secrets. "Mr. Harlan," she said, voice sharp as a tack, "I'm Susan Whitaker, president of the association we had reports of noise pollution and visual blight from your animals." I wiped grease from my hands, fresh off tuning the old tractor, and met her gaze steady. "Ma'am, this barn stood here since my granddad built it in '68. And those sheep? They're family quiet as lambs most days, and I keep everything spotless." Her lips pursed, eyes narrowing like I'd insulted her garden club. "Well, perhaps you could relocate them out of sight for harmony's sake." Harmony, right like her idea of peace, meant erasing anything that didn't match their step-forward vibe. All because she thrived on control, chairing every committee, dictating fence colors and holiday lights, feeding off that tiny fiefdom to fill whatever void gnawed at her. I told her politely but firm, "Susan, my land, my rules," who planted those wildflowers along the fence to soften things, even lent your mowers water last summer. But this ends at the property line. She huffed off in her SUV, but I could feel it brewing, that mix of entitlement and spite, like she'd been challenged for the first time in years. Things escalated quick, more letters, emails from some shady compliance, address citing made-up covenants that didn't apply to me. Then one dawn I spotted white powder dusted along the fence, some cheap repellent that could have burned my sheep's hooves if it had rained. I hosed it off, snapped pics and rigged up cameras, cause deep down, after all those tours overseas, I knew harassment when I smelled that Susan wasn't just annoyed. She saw my independence as a threat to her little empire, rallying neighbors with whispers of devalued homes and health hazards. Kids started tossing junk food over the fence, notes calling my setup an eyesore, and then, bam, a 2 a.m. alert pinged my phone there. She was on video, sneaking over in a hoodie, sprinkling more of that crap like a midnight vandal. I didn't blow up, not yet. Instead, I documented everything, hit the county office with maps proving my exemption, filed a report with Deputy Ruiz, an old poker buddy from the VFW, who shook his head saying, "Jack, this reeks of overreach." But Susan? She doubled down, driven by that bruised ego, maybe from her own failed farm dreams or just plain jealousy of my solitude while she juggled HOA drama. The real fireworks hit one muggy afternoon. I caught her slipping into my barn, phone out snapping pics, muttering about violations and waste mismanagement. I clear my throat loud. "Susan, you're trespassing again." She spun, face flushing. "This is for the greater good. Your sheep are a menace, smells wafting over, kids complaining. Menace? My heart raced, not from fear, but that slow-burning frustration of defending what's yours. Out now, I growled, but then Max, my biggest ram, trotted over curious, thinking her rustling meant treats. She shrieked like he'd charged with horns blazing, backed into a feed bucket, spilling grain everywhere, sudden chaos as the flock surged forward. Not aggressive, just excited for snack time. She bolted for the ladder, clambering up to the loft in a panic, perching there wide-eyed as they milled below, bleeding innocently. I couldn't help a deep laugh bubbled up, tears in my eyes at the absurdity. They're sheep, Susan, not wolves. You barged in, dumped their food. What did you expect a welcome at? She fumbled her phone, yelling, I'm calling the cops. This is assault. Fine by me. The cameras caught it all. Deputy Ruiz arrived chuckling, helped her down red-faced, muttering threats, but as he left, he whispered, save that footage, Jack Gold. I uploaded a silent clip later. No names, just neighborhood boss versus sheep. Epic fail, it exploded online. Millions of views, memes flying about Unite We Stand, turning her control freakery into slapstick gold. But victory? Nah, that lit a fire. She cranked up the retaliation. Fake zoning complaints to the county, noise citations that jacked my insurance, even a cut lock on my gate one night. All because her power slip felt personal, like I'd exposed the cracks in her perfect facade. That's when I flipped the script. No more defense. I lawyered up with my buddy Lena, a sharp property whiz who'd seen her share of HOA tyrants. We hit back with a cease and desist, subpoenaed their minutes, showing Susan's vendetta, her rallying the board out of spite, maybe tied her own land deal gone sour years back that left her bitter toward rural holdouts like me. The county tossed her complaints. Neighbors started whispering, some even slipped notes under my gate, apologizing for buying her lines, admitting she'd twisted fears of dropping values to mask her grip on the association. But Susan sued anyway, claiming emotional terror for my feral beasts and that video's defamation, her voice cracking in court as her lawyer stammered through it. Lena laid it out cold. Deeds, maps, footage proving trespass, the judge peering over his glasses. Ms. Whitaker, this isn't oversight, it's obsession. Drop it before you dig deeper. Her shoulders slumped, case dismissed on the spot, the board ousting her that week amid murmurs of her oversteps costing them credibility. I walked out lighter, but as I drove home, barn in sight with the flock grazing peaceful, I wondered, did I really win, or just spotlight how communities fracture when one person's ego runs unchecked? Back on the porch that evening, sheep nuzzling my boots under a fading sky scented with wildflowers, peace settled in, deeper now, woven with unexpected allies, neighbors dropping by for petting sessions, kids laughing as Fluffy nibbled carrots, even a new association head stopping over with a genuine sorry and a promise of boundaries respected. Yet, looking back, it makes you think, was Susan the villain, or just a product of these gated worlds where rules replace real talk, breeding isolation till someone snaps? What do you reckon ever dealt with a HOA nightmare? Or think folks like me should have bent sooner for harmony? Drop your stories below. Hit that like if sheep rule, and subscribe for more real-life tale-slit chat about where the line falls between rights and neighbors.